everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to our channel and welcome back to another wellness tip. We are going to continue with the theme of talking about diets and ways of eating that have worked for both of us. So Suzanne's going to share hers, and it's going to highlight how this specific way of eating has helped transform her relationship with food for the better.
It has helped transform my relationship with food. And the diet is The 4-Hour Body by Timothy Ferriss. I'm sure most of you have heard about him. He has a really successful podcast. He has a couple New York Times bestsellers. This book is so good. Well, it's really thick, so there's a lot of chapters. But the basic gist of it, the diet, is this. So 6 days a week, you eat just protein, veggies, and beans, and then you can end the night with a glass of red wine, which is nice if you want to be social. And then the 7th day, you have a ginormous cheat day. And what does he call it, Gina?
It's binging until the point of sickness. That's in his book.
She was reading it prior. She's like, what?
One of the questions is, do I really need to binge until the point that I'm sick? And he's like, yes.
And I had a hard time with that as well, like with some of the readers and some of the people in the book. And the thing is I was like, oh, I just need to do a cheat meal. And I was worried if I did it, I would completely go off the rails. But when I followed the book explicitly, I lost a lot of weight. So much so that people asked me if I was sick. So I stopped, or I then added some other things into my diet to maintain, not to lose more weight.
And she was losing weight while eating an entire pizza.
So I just want to tell you guys about my cheat days, because I think it's really important and I think it's really interesting. So I would wake up. First of all, I got so excited for these. It was like adult Christmas. I was looking forward to it.
I imagine.
And it consisted of this. Typically, the first meal was going to Denny's. I don't know who goes to Denny's, but I love Denny's. And I would get pancakes and sausage. The second was a hamburger and french fries. Next was a large pizza.
An entire large pizza to herself.
And then I would eat 2 things of Cold Stone.
I mean...
So, and now this...
Every week.
This brings up the question she initially said, how did this help my relationship with food? Sounds kind of crazy. But here's the thing. I had a really dysfunctional relationship with food for a couple reasons. One, I used it to cope. I used it to punish myself. And then when I would eat, I would then punish myself again by eating more, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was a downward
beat herself
spiral.
up and then not eat.
And then I would use food for control. I just had a lot of issues around food. But this gave me a basic calendar or a layout of how to be. And it allowed me to have a day where I truly enjoyed whatever it is, all the bad things,
Guilt-free.
all the things. And I loved it. And then I would get right back on the horse the next day. And it was rigid, but there was freedom within the rigidity. Meaning that like I could eat as much as I wanted those 6 days, but it was only certain types of food. So I never felt hungry. I never felt deprived. And it allowed me to understand that I can have a day where I indulge. And it allowed me, which is ironic, but to live more in moderation.
Yeah. Which seems counterintuitive, and it's also her story and her like success with cheat days is one of the arguments that people have against cheat days. It tells people that are against cheat days say that it reinforces this idea that some food is good and some food is bad, or it can kickstart this downward spiral of binge eating. It promotes binge eating, which isn't healthy, and then you can't really recover from that. And people think it sets up bad relationships with food, but she did have bad relationships with food, and having cheat days helped fix that. So
Again, it just comes down to whatever works for you. Like, is it something that you could do and it sends you down a downward spiral? Then don't do it. But for me, it allowed me to still be social. It allowed me to then again eat as much as I wanted during the week within within the
guidelines.
Yes.
But then also it allowed her to cheat and enjoy food that she loves and do it guilt-free without beating herself up. So her mind, it was a mental, I think.
It was the psychology really helped me, which is the psychology of anything.
Is mind over matter for anything that you're trying to do long term.
Gina, tell us about the science behind it.
Well,
this is where Gina's nursing degree comes in real.
Well, there are studies in general. If you're dieting and the only way to diet successfully and lose weight is to operate at a caloric deficit. When you do that, you change some of your hormones that affect your metabolism, affect your hunger, and affect your food cravings. Big ones being thyroid and leptin. So leptin, if you're dieting for a long period of time and you're operating under a caloric deficit, your leptin levels will go down, which means your hunger and your food cravings go up.
Leptin and hunger. Up then goes down.
So hunger goes up. So that's why it's really hard to maintain a diet. That's why dieting and losing weight is hard. But if you allow yourself these temporary moments where you up your caloric intake, like she does when she eats that full pizza, temporarily your leptin levels then spike. So she gets back on the wagon on Monday and goes back to her regime. She's not as hungry and she's not craving as much bad foods. That's the theory. And then you do that every week, you're kind of replenishing that hormone and you're manipulating stuff to help curb your hunger and your cravings long term. So in theory, you can stay on a caloric deficit longer if you do this.
That's what Timmy Boy says.
But some people can't do cheat days. And there's a lot of argument and controversy around that. And if you can't, an alternative to that would be like a refeed day, which is a little bit more calculated and more methodical on what you're gonna. But it's still the same thing. It's upping your caloric intake. It's however it works for you. For her, it was through pizza, French fries, and cheeseburgers.
This book too. This man has spent. I think it's over a decade learning how to manipulate his body. He is remarkable.
Yeah.
There is a chapter on how to make a woman orgasm in 15 minutes.
And that's on page 226.
In case anyone's wondering.
In 15 minutes. Is that what you said?
In 15 minutes. Yeah, it's amazing.
So he's a jack of all trades, really, this Tim.
Is he married, maybe? I am very happy, baby. I have no problems there. But just, anyways, we digress. Am I red?
Woo, it's hot in here. No, hey, Tim, good job on the book.
Yeah, and thank you.
What diets work for you? What ways of eating work for you? What don't? And what's your take on cheat days?
Yes, let us know and leave your questions and comments below.
And we'll come back with more wellness tips.
Bye.
Bye.